And Texas Republican Congressman Mike McCaul, the former chair of the House Foreign Affairs Committee, joins us now. Congressman, thanks for joining us. I have to say, candidly, it does seem as though President Trump is kind of making this all up as he goes along. Is this the right way to deal with Iran?
Wow, it's a broad question. I do support his changing course. I think this 20% toll would doing, and in that sense, validate their actions. I agree with the final outcome here, and that is the Gulf states can help pay for this effort because, after all, they benefit probably a lot more than the United States does, and Europe benefits by the straits being open as well. So I think that was a good outcome. I think overall, look, we're in a battle over the Straits of Hormuz now. You know, I came back from Ukraine, and it was all about hitting the Shahed drones with their advanced drone warfare systems, hitting the launch pads in Iran, just like Ukraine's hitting them in Russia. Getting to the source of the Shahed drones is where the military, I think, needs to focus, in addition to this blockade that they are now going to ramp back up.
CNN's Zachary Cohen and Pamela Brown report that the U.S. has been using its strained stockpile of Patriot missile systems to help defend Kuwait from Iranian attacks today. The U.S. is clearly expending precious resources here in this war that, frankly, has no end game. Are you concerned at all about readiness, military readiness right now?
Well, we are depleting our stockpile. There's no question about it. We got to find a way to make these Patriot interceptors faster. I encountered this situation in Ukraine, and it's also an issue in the Indo-Pacific, Indo-PACOM. You know, our allies like South Korea, Japan, they're worried about that as well. I was glad to see at the NATO summit, I met with President Zelensky, very pleased with the fact the president is going to provide the licensing agreements to make the Patriot interceptors so that Ukraine can use its latest innovation and talent to, I think, make them faster. But, you know, right now, let's say in Ukraine, when I was in Kyiv several nights, we heard the bombings every night because they don't have any interceptors. They have no Patriots to defend themselves from the ballistic missiles and that threat, and Putin knows that, and that's why he's launching everything he has. So, you know, we have to find also, Jake, other countries that would be willing to put their Patriots into Ukraine. Greece comes to mind. They have hundreds of these Patriot interceptors. They are not threatened, in my judgment, and they would be in a good position to do this.
You were just in Ukraine, where you received the Medal of Freedom Award from Ukrainian President Zelensky. You say morale seems higher in Ukraine than it was 2 years ago. There is this promising bipartisan Russian sanctions bill, which you were set to introduce with the late Senator Lindsey Graham. Trump just gave Ukraine the green light to start making Patriot missiles. How can Trump seize on this momentum and help Ukraine negotiate a lasting ceasefire that gets rid of the Russian threat for good?
Great question, and it's through deterrence. You know, I've been, you know, Lindsey and I have been with Ukraine since day one, in good times and in bad, in both administrations. We finally have a breaking point at this NATO summit where the president's now going all in. He sees Ukraine as a winner, and he likes winners. What I saw in the frontline operations was the Ukrainians taking back Russian-occupied territory. They're actually winning this fight now. So now is the time to put pressure on Putin. These sanctions that Lindsey and I have been working over the last year and have finally gotten White House, you know, the green light. His last comments on Earth were optimistic about how we were going to pass them into law. So for purposes of peace, not war, because we achieve peace through strength. Zelensky is ready for a ceasefire today. He's ready to negotiate. It's Mr. Putin that is not willing to call for a ceasefire or have any agreement or negotiate. So maximum pressure needs to be put on Putin. President Trump also endorsed the idea of hitting Russia in interior Russia. You know, Zelensky talked about hitting all the energy infrastructure in Russia. Let me give just the cost-benefit analysis here. $14 billion in Russian equipment and infrastructure were blasted by $14 million in Ukrainian drones. That is unsustainable by the Russian Federation.
The late Senator Graham also had just returned from Ukraine before he died. Senator John Cornyn of Texas suggested that there possibly could have been foul play. He said he was waiting for a toxicology report, given where Graham was and, quote, the sorts of things he was advocating for, unquote. As of right now, there's no evidence of this, but do you think that it remains a possibility that he could have been poisoned?
You know, I was there at the same time. Our meetings were back to back because I was on a personal mission to go to the front. He was there for a shorter period of time on a CODEL. I don't think there was foul play. I know that authorities are investigating this right now through an autopsy. I know that Lindsey had, you know, his father had heart conditions. I think he inherited some of that. But, you know, Lindsey was a hard charger. He traveled so much. He fought with every ounce of fiber in his being. And I think, unfortunately, his heart just gave out on him. I don't suspect there being any foul play.
Yeah, I agree with you. Republican Congressman Mike McCaul, thanks so much.